And rest assured, you're in the right place if you want to make a complete career change to a different company or to a different department in your company. If you want to refocus your resume to positions that have more responsibility and more accountability, or if you just want to see if you're on the right track with your resume. Most professionals find it relatively difficult to write their own resume, especially after you've looked at it hundreds of times. You can miss potential for improvement, and that goes for anybody. This is a really common problem, and that is where a professional resume writer a lot of times comes in. Just like any company would hire a marketing team or a public relations firm, individuals can also benefit from hiring a professional to position them the best way possible. So let's move on. Today we're going to go through several topics. First, we're going to discuss how the jobless recovery of the past 2 or 3 years has affected resume trends and patterns. We'll also be going over the essential parts of any resume, specifically a technical resume. Also, we'll review the types of resumes and which may suit you and your specific talents, experiences, and background. And I'll also go over what to include in your resume and what you should never, ever, ever have in your resume, although I've seen these missteps many, many, many times. Then I'll show you a couple of examples of before and after resumes were rewritten and point out some specific improvements to both format and to content. And then I'll go over some common questions that I get about resumes, and I'll give you some answers to those. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about the job puzzle, which is really everything you need to execute a successful job search. As with a real puzzle, every piece has to fit together to make the entire picture whole. You may find that one piece is missing, and just by adding it, you instantly make yourself more marketable to potential employers. Today's material may take the entire hour, so if we do run out of time and you have questions, feel free to post those or send them to me, and I'll be happy to answer them and post them anonymously to my blog and to make the answers available to everybody. So without further ado, let's get started. So what is a resume in 2012? Well, let me tell you, it's definitely not the same resume that employers saw 2, 3, or 5 years ago. With the crowded job market that the economic recession has resulted in, competition for every single job is more intense than ever before. Employers have unfortunately gotten used to having the pick of the litter of the top talent with the best credentials over the past couple of years. Therefore, your resume has to be in the best shape possible to stand out among your competition. A VP of an engineering firm I recently spoke to posted for an administrative assistant position, and he received hundreds of resumes, some of which actually have master's degrees and were incredibly overqualified. This is not that uncommon, and while things are looking up, the job climate is still pretty competitive. So it's more important than ever to have your resume be focused to the specific jobs you're applying for, streamlined to accommodate busy hiring manager schedules, and quantified as much as possible so that they stand out from the resumes that don't demonstrate measurable results. Now, professional resume writers utilize many different variations of resume formats, but they all pretty much boil down to 3 basic formats. The most common format used is a reverse chronological, where you state your work history from the most recent to the least recent, as well as your education from most recent to least recent. This is really the best for professionals who have a gapless work history, who have not been unemployed for an extended period of time, and who haven't really hopped from job to job. Some professionals do have challenging work histories in that they have unfortunate job gaps, or they have multiple relatively frequent jobs, which is less than a year, or they have other challenging circumstances, like they left work for a couple of years to care for a sick parent. For these professionals, it's really common to utilize a functional format, which spotlights your accomplishments, your skills, and your talents over work history. It really minimizes your work history, tries to take the attention off of it. But you have to be careful using a functional format because recruiters and HR professionals are all really wary of this format. And many times red flags immediately rise when they see one. They immediately begin to look for where the problems are if they see a functional format being used a lot of times. Now, for professionals with job gaps, multiple brief jobs, or who recently changed careers, there is another option. A really great option is a hybrid format, which focuses on accomplishments but doesn't really deliberately hide chronology. It rather minimizes it. This is also really great for professionals in sales or consulting, mainly careers that focus more on accomplishments and results rather than the dates you started and completed or your specific job responsibilities. So these are the main three resume formats. Now, as with any kind of writing, these formats are really used subjectively. There's no right or wrong way to use them, and they really could all be different depending on the professional as well as the company. Some resume formats utilize color. Some use all kinds of fonts and really interesting graphics. Some use tables and graphs. Nothing is really off limits when it comes to creating a standout resume. A lot of people still think that format doesn't matter, but it matter just as much as content in a lot of cases. Just like marketing, there's a reason that packaging sells. So keep that in mind when planning your entire presentation of your resume. If you need help determining how to best present yourself, a professional can be a worthwhile investment and really takes the guesswork out of the entire process. So now I'm going to move on to the 5 resume essentials. In other words, how to beat the 30-second HR scan. And what I mean by the 30-second HR scan is that HR professionals have very limited time to scan resumes. Research has shown that they typically take between 10 and 30 seconds to scan your resume for the most relevant skills and accomplishments that they need to fill the respective position. If they can't find the information they're looking for right away, the scan is pretty much over and your resume is essentially thrown out. Now first, it's absolutely vital to use power verbs and adjectives, really power words in general. It's also incredibly underrated. Words that pack a lot of punch will simply keep your reader interested and make you seem like a really exciting candidate.